Hello and welcome to all of you on today's session on the art of networking. It's my pleasure and my privilege to be here. I would like to thank the Tadra Virtual Academy for inviting me once again for this session. I do really hope that this will result into effective learning transfers for you. And by the end of the session, you will have learning takeaways that you can use easily and effectively at your workplace. This is going to be a brief half an hour session, so we will be covering some salient points that you can be finding useful. And we have one request of you, which is to keep the comments in the comment section respectful. So, welcome, marhaba, and I do look forward to interacting with you on this forum. Before I start, I would like to introduce a little about myself. My name is Smita, and I've been in this industry for about 18 years, and I've worked with very many private, government, and semi government organizations as a coach, consultant, and trainer. I'm also a social entrepreneur, and it's my pleasure to be presenting this topic on the art of networking to all of you. So, when we talk about the art of networking, we're going to be discussing some key paradigm shifts today that are going to be effective and useful for all of you. And one of the paradigm shifts that we will be talking about is that we will go beyond our current practices of what we have been doing. So, what we usually do in networking practices is having calling cards, exchanges, and we are hoping that by doing this, we'll have a top of the mind recall with our clients or with our networks that we hope to build. But this is often not the case. And why does that happen? Why don't these brief meetings become impactful, or why don't they bring in the results that we are hoping to have? The question is also there that are these practices at least giving us what we hope to have them? But that is not the case. The other practices that we have are business networking get togethers, where we again meet people with the hope that we can be of value to them or they can be of value to us. Again, this is a autopilot kind of a practice that may or may not get us the desired results. We probably go on to forums where we have people from similar walks of life who have similar interests as we do. And we hope that they will also lend some value to what we are doing and that we will have mutually beneficial relationships. But this is not the case. And we want you to ask this question of yourself today as to why this is so. Why it is that we are not able to get the results from the oft repeated practices that have been in practice for a long, long time now, in organizations and in personal spheres. And so this question is going to be answered like this in this session. We call that a key paradigm shift from your doing self and your being self. So think of yourself as an iceberg that floats in the sea. So if you've seen an iceberg that floats in the sea, we have two parts of the iceberg. The one part of the iceberg that is visible to the eye is what we are doing and what is the behavior. Okay? So the visible part is what we are showing as our behaviors every day and what we do. So these are the calling cards, these are the common forums, these are the business get-togethers, these are the meet and greet sessions that we have. However, the other part of the iceberg is what we are not able to see, which is the being part, which includes all our values, paradigm shifts of beliefs, assumptions, and worldviews. These are the real drivers of any interactions. So, in the long run, what really works for us is not what we are showing as a behavior, but the values, beliefs, assumptions, and the worldviews that we have. This is a very interesting paradigm shift, and we will discuss this a little more in the next slide. So, what does this basically mean for us is that when we are in the being self, we are emphasizing or focusing on who we are. We focus on our virtues, we focus on our personal growth, we focus on our relationships, and we prioritize self-reflection, and we work upon our character. We do character building stuff. We are also something that we call character in motion. However, in the doing part, we have what we only call resume virtues, virtues that look nice, but they don't really have genuine value for the other person, or accomplishments that we have already had before. We have also an approach to people which is ladder climbing. That is to say that we don't use people, we don't see people as who they are and how they want to be valued, but simply a ladder to the next bigger or a higher rung of people who we perceive to be better than us. So these are the difference in the and the connections that we build are not really relationship based, they're only based on networking. They're superficial and they're not value based. This is a key shift, and as much as we would like to believe that the doing self is actually what is working, you will find in the next slides that the people who are really building effective networks anywhere in their organizations or on social media are people who are in their being self. So when we talk about influencers or when we talk about people who are really respected on social media, who are they? They're usually people who have characterized the being self. They are the people who are character in motion. They are the people who have worked upon their virtues and self-reflection. And just by being in touch with them, we are able to get a lot of knowledge and we are able to have insights into what we want to do. And that is why we follow them. This is a networking shift that we want to explore today in further detail. And so we will actually invite a whole new cognitive reframe to the word networking. So when we say a reframe to the word networking, what we effectively mean is that we will have a new definition to it because the current definition does not seem to be working. And so when we say networking, we will now interchange with that with a word called superconnectors. But before we come to superconnectors, we will say how we want to improve our being self. So when we talk about the being self, one of the key ways of actually improving our being self is to ask ourselves this one very critical question, that is, what is my offer? Is my offer a financial one wherein I am able to lend or offer advice to other people as to how they can maintain, build, and enhance their finances? Or is that something I do well myself? Is it an intellectual one where I can explore ideas and concepts and new ways of thinking and that can lend value to other people? Or can I generate the same in other people? Can I help people brainstorm and come up with ideas? So that's also one way of looking at it. Is my offer an emotional offer where I actually help people understand themselves, validate themselves, build their emotional strength, so to speak? Do I also display these characters in myself? Finally, is my capital or is my offer a psychological one where I help people develop themselves psychologically and I help them build psychological flexibility around who they are and what they do in the world? Any of these offers are only valid if we have actually displayed them in ourselves as well. So personal mastery over a subject or any of these one of these fields is a great way to start the super connector business. And when we say personal mastery, what we mean is that you could actually be displaying this, talking about it, advocating it. And that is one of the ways to build a network. Of course, you could have one of this, two of this, or maybe all of this in yourself to become one in moderate levels, or be exceptionally well at one of them to be able to become a super connector. So right now we have discussed as to what we have been doing wrong and how actually networking doesn't work as a paradigm anymore and that we need to redefine our understanding of networking. We also discussed as to why only our behaviors don't matter, our motives or our intentions or our being self is what matters. And our being selves can be enhanced by asking ourselves this one question, that is, what is my offer? Is it financial, intellectual, emotional, or psychological? With that, we will come to the next slide where we will discuss the word superconnectors. Superconnectors, who are they and what do they do and why is it that they are so successful? So superconnectors are people who are tied to thousands and thousands of people. We live in a dynamic, agile, volatile world today. And we cannot hope to have a network which is only 400 or 500 strong people. We need to be tied up with thousands of people and they create valuable, important networks which are mutually beneficial to all parties. These people are connected, but they're also very generous. And in the next 10 slides, where we have 10 quick understandings of theirs, we will discuss their anatomy. But let us first discuss what superconnectors actually do differently. So, super connector is an information broker or even maybe a value broker, someone who's constantly learning about others, someone who's incessantly connecting. They are people who are not only connected to themselves but to other people as well. So, they help other people connect in meaningful and valuable ways. So, the moment they find that two people have diverse interests and they can probably be of use to each other, they move ahead and connect them. Superconnectors are also they also accumulate a lot of social capital by engaging with trust and in valuable conversations with the right individuals. Now, the two critical words over here are trust and right individuals. And who are they? We will be discussing the later slides. Needless to say, suffice it to say right now that the word trust is critical to any networking or any kind of a superconnector work that we do in our societies or in our workplace. The idea is to seek out places and people who are not ordinarily in your walk of life. So we have to move out of our comfort zones and to find out things that we can do differently or that people do differently or are entirely in a different walk of life altogether and understand how they function and see where they can lend value to either yourself or to others. So now let's discuss what is the anatomy of a superconnector and what makes them who they really are. Why are superconnectors so different from the ordinary networker? What is the critical behavior that they're showing that's actually defining them separately from the others? So, in today's day and world, we're talking a lot about curiosity. So, leadership and management is all about being curious and open. And the superconnectors most definitely are curious people. They're not just curious about the subjects, but they're also curious about people. So these people are open to all information regarding different subjects and they show a healthy amount of curiosity and a wanting to understand of any other field that they come across. This is very important to them as it helps them grow and develop consistently without any blockages. So staying curious stops them from becoming complacent or becoming lazy or being a know-it-all or being thinking that they've already achieved mastery. It helps to have a childlike curiosity about subjects. It always keeps you in a place of knowing more and more and being vitally enthusiastic about the world, which is who they are. They are the people who are also lending the same curiosity to people who are actually around them. And in doing that, they not just maintain judgment, a non judgmental stance, but they're also able to connect with them openly without any blame, without any labeling. And who doesn't like to be not labeled? None of us like to have an evaluative person around us. None of us like to have judgmental people around us. By doing so, they make it immensely psychologically safe for the people around to be able to connect with them in healthy and open ways. So, curiosity is one of the superpowers that they are able to display. Let us now understand the second rule that they do. The second rule is that they appreciate value. Having cultivated either of the four pillars of intellectual, financial, emotional, or psychological, they go on to understand if any of these are available in the other person as well. And so being the case, they actually are people who are able to create value in other people consistently by understanding who they are and what value they are lending. They are also intensely conscious about what value they are bringing on the table. So, superconnectors never hold themselves cheaply. They have a lot of respect for the other person, yes, but they have an immense amount of respect for what they bring on the value, and therefore they will only connect with you when they see value in you. This is for all those people who are wanting a better LinkedIn profile or a social media presence, is to create value in yourself and to be able to spot value in others as well. Rule number three is that they communicate in very clean ways. We will be discussing clean communication in the little later slides. Suffice it to say right now that clean ways of communicating means that you say exactly what you mean and the other person understands exactly what you meant and what you said. So there is no disconnect between the speaker and the receiver. There is no mental disconnect. There are no filters. There are no belief systems or assumptions that are coming in between. We will discuss this a little later in our later slides. They are very mindful of their unconscious biases and prejudices. So the human being is born with unconscious biases. Even babies show it. It is impossible for us to walk around in this world without biases. We all have it, yes, but the superconnectors are very, very conscious about their biases. They understand that there's a brain bias which is working right now. And they either try to process that and understand it, or they try to work themselves out of it to be able to approach people and situations, problems, subjects in an open and engaging manner. This is directly tied up to the mindful communication, because if you need to have clean communication, we cannot be operating from an unconscious or conscious biases or prejudices for that matter. They do not operate from the victim mindset. So habitually, a lot of us have gone through a lot of difficult adversities, testing times maybe. And what usually happens is that we develop a mindset which is a victim mindset, which sees that they are being victimized consistently. This could be also true if a victim is not being victimized, and yet he finds that he has a set of assumptions or belief systems that makes him feel like a victim. And this is called the victim mindset. So, a victim mindset is very detrimental or very harmful to a networker or a superconnector. A victim mindset means that you will start seeing injustice where it is not. You will start believing that you are a victim of your circumstances, even if you are not. And that is one of the things that actually stops a superconnector in their tracks, because it does not talk about self belief. It operates from insecurity. It operates from assumptions which have not been verified by facts. It operates from a belief mechanism which is actually a bias or a prejudice. Would we be able to connect with a person who operates like this? Ask yourself this question, and the answer is most likely not. The, the superconnectors are selfless human beings. So if they are meeting thousands of people, they connect them in open and engaging ways, and they do not hold back. They do not expect reciprocity from every single relationship. They do so from a sense of abundance, from a sense of security, and from a sense of finality that they will get help when they need to have. This is a very important worldview that they hold in their minds and in their emotional selves, because that means that their basic worldview is that of that world is a good place. And this is what other people take from them unconsciously. This is the vibe that they carry out, that even if I do you good and if you don't bring it back to me, I will get it from somewhere. So they are basically selfless people, and they have plenty of belief in their whole worldview that the world is a giving and a forgiving place. The rule number 7 about anatomy of superconnectors is that they are people who are able to cultivate trust. The way we ask for trust is having a few superficial iceberg behaviors, and then we expect a few transactions to happen, and then we are willing to trust. Superconnectors, however, consistently display the CRI of trust. And what is the CRI? C stands for credibility, which is that they are able to perform excellent service in a short period of time with a short amount of given notice over and over again. And so when they do it over and over again, they become highly reliable individuals. And the I stands for intimacy, which is to say that they're able to have a healthy connect with each other. They have an emotional understanding of each other. They do not attribute goodness or badness immediately onto people. They reserve their judgments, they hold on to the labeling process, and they try and connect and see the human side of other people. So the credibility plus reliability plus intimacy is then divided by self-orientation, which is that they are deeply committed to their personal growth, their personal development, and their understanding of how they can keep growing and developing and learning new things in the world. And that is how they create a trust factor with other people. The rule number 8 of superconnectors is that they are always and always trying to connect other people to each other. So they never hold back when they have somebody who they think will be able to be of use to another person. They never do that. Okay, it's who they are, that they will always want to be of use to you in one way or the other. And the one way that they can be useful to you, pardon me, is to be actually helping you out, meeting other people who can help you out. So it's again the selfless rule that they have and the lack of prejudices and biases that they have that helps them become this person. They help others achieve their goals. As Zig Ziglar rightly said, you will get all you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. Helping other people is a highly underrated skill in today's world because we always are hoping to get something in return. However, when we help other people achieve their goals, somehow we are also furthering our goals as well. So the super connector is never insecure on those grounds about helping other people. They help them achieve their goals consistently and they also find that they are also achieving their goals. The rule number 10 is that they keep learning and growing consistently over a period of time and they have a growth mindset around it. So, in the earlier sessions that we have done about personal development series, we have gone through growth mindset and you will find plenty of material over there. Suffice it to say right now that the people who have growth mindset are actually people who are able to create learnings for themselves and they never label themselves for their failures. They keep looking out and saying, okay, I have not learned this as yet, but I will be learning it in the later times. They also never call themselves winners or losers. They do not label themselves or label other people. Because even when we are doing a positive labeling, it is still a label. So, we spoke a little while back about clean communication tips, and what we mean about clean communication tips is this, that we are able to speak in a manner which again is withholding of any judgments, withholding of any criterias or labels in the very beginning. And how do we do that? We do that by actually asking open ended questions. So, what are open ended questions? Open ended questions are those questions that actually end up in a sentence and not in a yes or no. So, are you feeling okay? Yes or a no? And that's a close ended statement or a close ended question. But when we say, how are you feeling or how are you doing? That's an open ended question, and you can have very many responses. And that's a lot of data that we can start using to understand the other person if we really want to. So, when we talk about clean communication, we always encourage questioning, open ended questions as much as possible. For instance, what are your ideas around this? What do you feel about this? What do you think we can do separately? Or what are your alternatives? What's next? For instance, when was the last time you did something like this? Or any of these statements can help you understand the other person's psychology, his emotional stance, and his wanting to help or his motivation or his intentions very well. So we encourage clean communication tips. The second bit of it is this, that we also try to do assertive communication. So when we talk about assertive communication, we talk about positive assertions. And what are positive assertions? Positive assertions are those statements that actually build a lot of psychological safety around yourself and the other person. It also helps the other person to start trusting you and having a reliable interface with you. It also helps us understand what we can do to have a better interaction or to have mutual terms that can help each other. So, when we talk about clean communication tips, we talk about positive assertive statements, and this is how it goes. I see that this is what is happening right now, and I'm currently feeling XYZ because I'm needing one, two, three things from you. Would you be willing to do this for me, please? Or I see that this is something which is happening with you. Are you feeling a bit low or maybe a little depressed? Because if you're needing this, maybe I could meet your need with one, two, three, or four. Any of these statements are very, very clear about the fact that they are actually wanting to either help or communicate or understand the other person. And in doing so, what actually happens is the other person relaxes around us. They become psychologically safe around us. There is no labeling, and therefore our work gets done. There's a mutuality in the relationship. There's a mutual beneficial effect that we have on each other, and therefore our relationship becomes better. I'm not saying that this can be useful everywhere, but a lot of times it does work. This is not something that we would use in everywhere in conflict management, but in some places in conflict management where you feel the other person has a reasonable paradigm of the world, this can come very, very in handy. So we spoke about clean communication tips right now. At this very point in time, I would like to also right now say that a lot of people say that even though I do communicate well, the other person does not feel nice around me, or they do not open up to me, or I'm not able to make an impact. And I will go back to the iceberg and I'll ask you, is that an outward behavior, or is that a below the iceberg, value based, intention based, motive based communication? The scientific fact around networking is this, ladies and gentlemen, and I would really like your attention over here for a few brief minutes, is that we have a nervous system. Every human being has a nervous system. And our nervous systems are sometimes, due to problems and adversities, coming into a state which is called fight and flight. A fight and flight nervous system is always prone to having more conflict, they are prone to having escaping of situations. And if you are in that state, as of right now, in a nervous system state or a nervous system dysregulation, as we call it, the other person will catch on to it. And this is the very vital piece that most people do not understand, is that people do not see what you're saying. People find you safe or not safe basis your nervous system. If your nervous system is an open, curious, frank state, they will communicate with you. However, if your nervous system is in the fight and flight state, they will be not able to communicate with you as they do not find you safe. So they're basically not two human beings who are communicating, but they're basically two nervous systems who are communicating. And therefore, we talk about the victim mindset tips right now. We all have a victim mindset. Sometimes we are born with it because it's a part of a generational heritage. Sometimes we develop it over a period of time. And so we have something that we call the Karpman's drama triangle. And the Karpman's drama triangle basically says that we have three mental stances around any situation or any person. One is a persecutor, which says it's all your fault, and where were you when was this happening? I totally hold you responsible, and that's the persecutor. Then there's a rescuer, which says, oh, let me help you and I will help you do this. Oh, I can take care of this for you. And then there's the victim, which says, poor me, I'm not responsible, but I'm always held responsible. All these three people reside inside us, for instance. And at any given time, we are either the persecutor or the rescuer or the victim. Sometimes we become all three of them, one after the other. So if somebody has victimized us, we'll say, oh, that person victimized me that time, and this time it's my turn, and therefore I'm going to become the persecutor. None of these three positions are mentally or psychologically healthy positions to take. These are the positions that are taken by people who are actually a victim mindset, whether it's a persecutor or a victim or a rescuer. That's the interesting bit. The one way that we can actually take care of this is to actually move away from this paradigm altogether, to be able to understand that we can actually become creators or co-creators of our environment. We can become challengers and coaches, and that is where all of the above 10 behavioral aspects of a super connector, and the fact that we spoke about clean communication and having an offer, comes into play. So when you move into a passion-based, outcome-focused, you go in the bottom half of the iceberg and not the top half. You start finding out and mining ways to connect with people through all the 10 tips that we have shown. You start working upon your nervous system regulation. You start having a healthy, open communication that you can use everywhere. And that is the bottom line about having a victim mindset that we can actually break. We are all connected in so many ways in the world, and therefore when we talk about networking, we cannot not talk about the 6 degrees of separation. What are the 6 degrees of separation? It is said that anybody who you do not know at all right now, and you right now, have 6 people who are connected to them and you. So you're only 6 people away from the other person. So we are actually living in a very, very connected world. And now, even now we hear of quantum entanglement, and we talk about quantum field. And in the quantum paradigm of the world, the separation does not exist. We are all basically one and the same, just showing different aspects of ourselves. What emotions we understand in ourselves is what we understand in the other person. What we see in ourselves, we see in other people. We do not see others how they are. We see others how we are. So that's one thing that can help us understand how we can also stop this separation between us and understand that whoever we do not know, we just have to understand that there are six people between us. So, right now, in the last couple of slides, we have discussed what are the 10 attributes of a connector. We also discussed how they can break the victim mindset by moving away from the three stances of persecutor, victim, and rescuer. We also spoke about how we can have mindful and open communication. I do hope that some of these tips you've been able to map to your personal life or to your workplace, and some things that you can probably dig into more to find out how you can work upon them. I really do look forward to having questions from you in the question box and all your comments. It's always very welcome and helps us become better than what we are as of right now. I thank you for your presence, and I thank the Tadara Virtual Academy once again for inviting me. Before going, I would like to finally recommend the two reading lists for us, which is Bend Not Break and Mindset. These two are very good books if you really want to work upon your virtues and the bottom half of your iceberg. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you all once again for having me.